Today we're finally going to be looking at the Fox5, the newest iteration of Bugaboo's highly terrain-capable flagship model. We've been following the evolution of the Fox since the beginning, and in our opinion, this is actually the biggest update that we've seen so far, involving multiple mechanical and performance changes. So let's jump straight into it then, going over the Fox5 from top to bottom, and examining its advantages and disadvantages in terms of child comfort, ease of use, performance, and mechanics, before ending with a discussion of which lifestyles and environments it will suit well and which it won't. And beginning with some stats, the Fox5 weighs in at between 10.4 and 12.2 kilos, depending on whether it's configured with the seat or the bassinet, and folds down to 44 by 60 by 90 centimeters as a single piece. It can take 22 kilos in the seat and 10 kilos in the underslung shopping basket. When it comes to child comfort, the Fox5 comes with both the seat and bassinet included and attachable to the same frame. The bassinet comes pre-mounted in the box, though you do have to attach a few additional elements as well before using it, and is what you'd expect from a premium model, being deep and wide with good padding and ventilation. Switching to the seat, as well as possibly switching back to the bassinet at some point in the future, takes a bit of assembly, which some people dislike, though I would note here that the process is at least easier than it was on previous iterations of the model. When it comes to the seat, the Fox5 has an inside width of 36 centimeters and a total length of 104 in its longest configuration, measured by adding up the lengths of the backboard, baseboard, leg rest, and space beneath the canopy, which is on the larger side for models of this sort and will comfortably fit a child up until around 3.5 or 4 years old. The Fox5 has introduced both a telescopically extending leg rest and the ability to raise up the canopy, but I would note here that these features seem to be more about the ability to fine-tune seat size rather than really increasing total length, as the Fox3, for example, the last iteration of the model, was only shorter by a couple of centimeters. As far as other aspects of the seat are concerned, the textiles have a luxurious feel, appropriate for the price, the canopy is extendable and provides more than adequate sun coverage, and the harness is easy to use, expandable, and set up in such a way that the belts hold themselves out from the seat back, so that you don't have to fumble for straps under your kid. Moving on to parent comfort, the model has a good range of handle height, adjustable between 92 and 108 centimeters, and a decently accessible shopping basket that's a tad larger than with previous iterations. As far as folding is concerned, the Fox5 has shifted to a one-handed process that involves depressing 2 buttons on the handle and using a little force to push it all the way in to unlock the folding mechanism. The model can be folded as a single piece with either the seat or bassinet, folds to a stable and relatively easy to accomplish self-standing position, and now can be unfolded without fiddling with any triggers or dials, unlike previous versions of the model. As far as size, weight, and storage are concerned, it's important to understand that this is a large stroller, one of the biggest reversible seat options out there without a tandem configuration. And while it can be disassembled to fit in a medium-sized car trunk, the Fox5 is more suitable for people who tend to get around without a car, in my opinion. When it comes to how the model feels to use, right out of the box, the Fox5 has a strong, substantial feel with well-fitted elements that aren't noisy or loose. And here I'm talking about the whole chassis, including the handle, where it's actually rare that strollers with this sort of folding setup don't feel at least a little loose. As far as driving performance goes, like previous versions of the model, the Fox5 outperforms most other strollers of its type, being capable of tackling both rougher conditions, like cobblestones or gravel, on a regular basis, while also being able to handle harder off-road terrain, like forest trails, when you really need to, and simultaneously is also quite light to maneuver on smoother terrain as well, thanks in particular to raised ridges on the model's wheels and a clever overall angling of the chassis, which maximizes control of the Fox's wide footprint. Alright, let's switch over to the mechanics of the Fox5 then, starting with the biggest change, which is of course the folding system, where Bugaboo has finally shifted out the over-complex internal mechanisms of previous Fox models for this more common system of a one-handed, handle-activated fold, and has also removed the elements that previously locked the model in its folded position. This is a very positive change for the model's longevity in my opinion, and as I mentioned earlier, Bugaboo's version of this system, as in a one-handed folding process whereby the handle is slammed down to activate the fold, is built in a tighter manner than with strollers from a lot of competing brands, such as Cybex. The Fox5 is new, so it's hard to know whether this setup will develop its own hiccups over time. But the fact that the internal components are now fewer, involve more metal, and also seem to have gone back towards the buffalo and donkey designs in some respects, leads me to believe that there's not nearly as much need to worry about internal problems showing up over time as there was with previous versions of the Fox. Though I would note here that folding the model to its standing position does involve a fair amount of weight rocking against the handle and the central joint, which is likely to make the model a little looser vertically after a while. Beyond the folding system and the handle, the overall structure of the chassis is quite solid, with good cross support, and we've already had several versions of the Fox now as well, of course, that have proved the model not to develop much looseness side to side. Moving down, the rear frame of the chassis hasn't actually changed all that much from previous versions, though I would say that the suspension in the central bar, which is essentially rear frame suspension, is a bit more noticeable. Other than this, the Fox5 retains the same ballpoint brake system, which is a tad complicated internally but convenient, the same method for holding the rear wheels to the chassis, with strong wheel locks and shorter axles that are unlikely to bend out of shape, and the same wheels in terms of their structure and tires, with the only real difference being that they seem to have abandoned the swappable hubcap thing. Looking lastly at the front frame, the swivel locks and the front fork suspension remain the same as on previous versions of the model, which is fine as both elements are well built and function as they should. And the front wheels are also still the same 8.5 inches, which is larger than a lot of comparable strollers out there, and one of the keys to the Fox's good terrain capabilities. What has changed, however, is an improvement of the wheel forks and how they lock within the front frame, that now provides an even tighter and more wear-resistant connection to better prevent wobbling issues from showing up down the line. And the front frame has changed as well, of course, with the bar having been swapped for a similar front frame to that on the Butterfly, which is shaped to better facilitate the standing fold. So, should you get the Fox5 then? Maybe. The Fox is an awesome model, and the Fox5 is, in my opinion, a definite improvement on what was already a great design. But it's also a bit of a specialty stroller, which will be a good choice only if you have a lifestyle and live in an environment where you will actually benefit from having a larger, more terrain-capable model like this. Meaning firstly, that you tend to get around a lot without a car, and secondly, that you live somewhere a bit rougher, namely anywhere where it snows, anywhere where you'll want to stroll off-road as a part of your daily life, or urban settings with rougher streets or cobblestones. It's great if you live in a European city or rural Australia, for example, but not so great if you live somewhere like American suburbia where you have to drive everywhere. You have to need this stroller for it to be worth the size, the weight, and the price, which, as with everything else these days, has gone up. But if you do need it, then Bugaboo has at least matched that price with a great extended warranty, and there are very few, if any, other strollers out there on the market that can fully match the Fox when it comes to luxury and terrain capability on a reversible seat model. In any case, we hope you found this video interesting, and if you did, please subscribe, as this sort of support really helps us to continue making videos in the future. In addition, if you're currently shopping for a stroller, we have a buyer's guide on our Patreon page which lists a wide range of models that we recommend, with a lot of technical and lifestyle related information. You can find it by following the link in the description. Thank you.